Hey Marvin, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. We're going to go through and talk about your motion, break it down, take a look at sort of a couple of the key spots that we look at to make sure you're maximizing your total potential. We're getting your legs involved. We're making sure that we're getting ourselves in a nice, healthy position. We're able to consistently repeat our mechanics. And there's a couple spots that we look at. We look at your setup, look at how your hips are working. We're looking at what you look like at foot strike, and we look at your release too. And so, we'll go through and look at each one. So, overall, it looks like you got a pretty good sort of idea of your mechanics. Looks like you're a big, powerful kid, and there's just a little bit that we can do with your weight to make sure that you're using all that body. And I'll go through and talk a little bit more about that. You're just getting a little bit out over that front foot. Sort of rushing a little bit, and I'll go and talk about that. So we'll go back here to the start. So from the stretch, the biggest thing is just making sure that your eyes are on that target that whole time. You can see your eyes never leave. All right, that's good. Very good to see. All right. So as we tick through, basically what we look for is we look for balance and we look for posture. All right. So we're going to go wait for you to turn here a little bit. All right. So right about here. Okay, so now we're going to mark up, what's your head looking like, sort of in relation to your spine, to your lower body, and you have a pretty good balance. All right, so we just want to see you staying over that rubber through the start of that motion before everything really gets going, before those hands break, and you can see you're doing a pretty good job at staying over that. All right, so now we need to tick back here to the start here a little bit to look at what your hips are doing. All right. So right at this point, this is sort of the height of your leg lift. All right. So you're seeing your eyes are still on the target, which is good. Hands still in the glove. All right. So sort of the series of progression we want to see here is we want to see our hips start to go forward. All right. We want to see this foot and this heel kind of just drop down. We don't want it to kick out, and then we want to see our hands start to break. All right. So as we get going, you can see your hips going a little bit forward. All right. And what you're seeing is your hands are just breaking a little bit late. Okay. So your hand still looks like it's kind of coming out behind your glove a little bit. But now it breaks, and you're already kind of going down the mountain. So just you're late, and then your arm's going to have to rush. Your body's going to have to rush to catch up with everything. So just make sure right at this point that ball comes out of that glove as everything starts to go forward. All right. So just kind of a drill you can do is just get up to this point, balance there for a couple seconds, break the hands as those hips are going forward. You just got to get that timing down because that is how you repeat everything. If you have problems with consistency, you throw strikes one at bat, and it's kind of hard to throw strikes, and that's that timing. If you're breaking your hands late, it's going to be hard to repeat those mechanics. And so that's just something easy. Just work on it, but you can see everything's going. Now the hands come. All right. So that's just sort of an easy fix. All right. You can see this foot starting to pop out a little bit early, but it's not too bad. You can still see your hips are leaning down that mound. So that's good. You just got to make sure that they want to stay closed as long and as far down that mound as you can get, because that's where all that energy, that's where all that velocity comes from, is right here. And so trying to keep that closed as long as we can, but it's not too bad right there. Okay, so as we get going, all right, because your hands are kind of late, kind of has to play catch up, and you can see them kind of lock out here straight. So now your hands are late. They kind of have to rush out, and when they rush, those arms kind of lock out and get everything sort of kind of sync a little bit. So you can kind of see how now your glove's up high, and it kind of just sits up there for a few frames, and then it kind of starts to turn down at this last minute here. All right, so ideally at your foot strike, which is, it looks like your heel might be touching there, but we'll call this foot strike. You're doing good at getting extension. You're like I said, your hips were pretty good. You're getting nice and long, but you can see this elbow starting to turn out already. All right, so at this spot, we'd still like to see that elbow kind of matched up with that back elbow, and we're down here. That elbow still hasn't moved back yet. but you have good posture. All right. A lot of times kids will kind of start leaning out over that front foot, so you're doing good. You're keeping that power load up in the back hip here. So now it's just a matter of trying to keep that front shoulder closed a little bit longer, because as you see through the motion, you can see that glove almost disappear behind your body there. We like to see that more, keeping that glove out over that front foot to help that body get out a little bit more over that front foot. So then through your release point, you're going to get just a little bit more extension. So at your release, looks like you're releasing somewhere between these two frames. Keeping that glove out, getting farther out of that front foot, you're going to start seeing a little bit more angle on it. All right, so you're going to pick up 6 to 8 inches of release point, because you're going to get that head out over that front foot a little bit more. Now that release point's in line with your body, out here a little bit more. So now you've picked up, this much of distance. Now that ball gets on the hitters a lot quicker. Gets you less strain on those joints in that elbow. And so that's just something that will get easier as you get a little bit older, get stronger, and get more sort of sink in that lower half. But the biggest thing with you is just that timing of breaking the hands before everything gets going, and that'll help keep that front side closed. That'll help keep you staying back a little bit longer in that back leg and keeping those hips closed a little bit longer. So just make sure you're kind of figuring out that timing, because that'll be big for you. Consistency wise too, you just got to be able to repeat those mechanics, repeat them, and you got to have that same timing every time to get it going. But like I said, everything else is pretty solid, so it's going to be pretty good for you to build off of there. So anyways, good job. Thanks for making it out to camp. Hopefully you had a great time, and hopefully we'll see you with ABC.